All right. Do you have a chat box? If you do, you can go in the chat box there and type in, make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me okay? All right, perfect. All right, so let me go to the weekly to show you what you're looking at. All right, so if you're looking at what I'm looking at, you see that I have the Fibonacci retracement set up. So I see resistance and support levels. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know how the chat works yet on this, so I'll have to figure that out later. But I'm reading your Facebook message too. So I have Fibonacci set up, so you can see that, right? So with that, basically, yeah, you have the indicators that show the stochastic, which this is what I'm getting at. Like that stochastic is already like pretty high. Like this might be one more week's worth of going up, and then this looks good. You have the break on momentum looks good. The ADX, remember, it just came off this huge break right here, which had that rise in the ADX, and now the ADX is coming back down. So when you think of things like a cup, like because you've heard of that strategy where it like cups over, everything kind of has to reset. So you see these are cupping over, and this is cupped over, and this is cupped over. So what's going to end up happening with this is it has a little bit more push. So if I had to guess by tomorrow, like next week, this is going to hit this resistance line, and it's going to kind of zigzag in here. It's going to be in a consolidation channel. Plus, you can see with the Bollinger Band, you see how they're getting really tight here? It's going to enter into this consolidation channel, like right inside this resistance and support. And I'm basing that off of the fact that the ADX is nowhere near, even though it's at 22, that's great, but it's resetting. It's coming off of this big break. And this is a weekly chart. So I would, and the way I trade it is I would use the weekly chart to find like moves like this, but then I want to confirm on the daily chart to make sure that it's a good trade, right? So then I go to the daily chart, and you can see right here on the 180 day, it's sitting, it's like bumping that as resistance. Like it doesn't have enough force to get through it yet, even though the ADX is increasing and it's at 20, which is a good sign. MACD is increasing, good sign. Momentum's above zero, good sign. But look at our stochastic. It's up here and oversold. So it's oversold without the ADX being in that full momentum swing. Because remember, I said stochastic can be ignored when this is like above 25, but it's not there yet. So even if it does get enough momentum to push through this resistance level, there's no way it's going to have enough resistance to push through this $89 level. So if I were to take this trade, I would have to buy in the money at $87, and I would have to trade it as soon as it hits this 89, like somewhere in that range, and just take a quick profit. It wouldn't be something that I would hold long term, because in reality, you're going into this consolidation, and you're going to bounce between these until everything lines back up for the breakout. And it won't be too long, but it could be a week or two. So if you were doing some options trading and you only bought like a month out, you might be cutting it way too close. Like if you bought like 720 and you get this bump up, like you would have to sell before then. Other than that, you'd probably end up expiring worthless on your options. And then really, I like to go to the 4 hour too. I like to look at it on all these levels, and the 4 hour really confirms what I'm saying by showing you that like this ADX is like getting really far extended up, even though there's technically no limit to how high. I mean, there is. Plus, you can look over here to see that there's a level that it got caught at before, and it's at that same level now. and then the MACD has had this big push, and it's now double bounced. I don't particularly like that bounce. It tells me that, yeah, it went up a little bit more, but it's not going to go up too much more. Stochastic slow is getting into that oversold, and momentum is just hanging out just above the zero. You can go ahead and ask me a question now if you want on Facebook. I'm looking at it. But resistance and support is a big factor into where you're at. I only would ignore the stochastic slow once it's above. So in this case, yeah, I mean you could technically ignore the stochastic slow. But even then, you can see this. You're at this top of this Bollinger, and again, remember we've just come up off this big push. That's like this double bounce. So in reality, if you were going to find this trade, you would have found it. You would have wanted to find it back here at this stochastic break, this momentum break, this MACD break, and this big push right here. So again, you're in the right because on the long term, you're correct. You're looking at the right stuff. You're looking at the good daily, the good weekly. I just wouldn't take this trade just yet because remember, we want the goal is to be there at the beginning of the break, not like bouncing around in the break. Yeah, somewhere around that 89 because that's a good resistance level. I'm going to show you this one that is a good example of one I found like a couple weeks ago. Yeah, you'd want to wait till it pulls back, but you want to wait for your setup again. So like basically this hit all the key factors of the setup you want. And now you want to wait for the pullback and then wait for it to set back up and then you'll get that run on the next one. So this system, it's not there's stocks that can be traded every single day, and yeah, it's tricky to find, but when you find them, they move. I'm going to show you NTAP. So I found this one a couple weeks ago, and I'll show you where I traded it. I'm on the 4-hour chart right here. So I actually found NTAP way back here with this crossover on the stochastic, then hit the MACD, momentum started to break, and then you see there's a little bit of time before the ADX started crossing over. And then, so if you would have taken this trade, you would have taken it about right in this range, and then you would have caught this big break. Now, it's up to you once that breakout happens when you want to sell because the profit's coming. So there's a couple strategies to know when you can get out. If you want to get out at your first MACD crossover to the downside, that would have put you about right here, which means you would have had about a $5 or $6 gain there in the matter of like 1 week. Or if you want to wait till you see the ADX start kind of like that peak cracks, like it would have cracked right here, like that would have been a good sell point. But like that's a good example of finding a stock. I'll go to my scanner and I'll let you see it because I know you got to go to work soon, but I want you to see this. So just in this scanner right here, I have a volume of 1 million. The close, I don't have anything for the stock price on this particular one right now. I like to have stocks that have some open interest on options. And then in this particular one, I have a negative to a positive on the weekly on the MACD because like just like you saw on Walmart where it's cracking on the MACD, that's always a good sign. And then on the daily, I want to make sure it's above the 50-day simple trading period. So just with this simple criteria right here, I get 69 potential stocks. And if I pick some out, like this one, HIMX, I'll show you this one actually has a decent setup. We're on the 4-hour chart, and on the 4-hour chart, we just crossed over a resistance level, again, based on the Fibonacci. So we didn't catch the first breakout, which would have been from this $7.21 to about 7.80. We didn't catch that break, but it's kind of setting up where the stochastic's giving itself a little bit of room. The momentum's coming back down, the MACD's coming back down. But because of where it's at right here, I'm thinking it's going to consolidate for a couple of days and then be ready to move again. And the way I would determine that is I want to confirm on my daily chart. So the daily, you have a stochastic crossover, you have a momentum crossover, you have a MACD crossover, but what you don't have is the ADX. And you see how the ADX was coming down, which means we want that to start curving up. So what that tells me is that we're going to get this push up to about this resistance level of the 180-day, which would be $8.12. So would I really want to take that right now? The answer is no. All these are confirmed, which means I can get in this trade right now if I want to, but it depends on how long you want to hold the trade for. So I could jump into this knowing that it's going to consolidate and then eventually break out as long as the weekly says it's going to. And it does, because the weekly says we're going up on stochastic, we're above zero on momentum, we're up on the MACD. But again, see the ADX just isn't there yet. And you can see where the Bollinger tightens up into consolidation. So the answer is yes, I could buy this right now, but I wouldn't, because I know that I can go and find a trade that's closer to a breakout and then come back to this one once it's consolidated a little bit, once it hits this resistance and bounces and then gets ready to move. And remember, this all comes down to your style of play. If I wanted a quick trade, I could probably take this trade that confirms everything and go to like a 30-minute. And if I go to 30-minute, see this cup, we're about ready to, cup around and then get a next little breakout up. Yeah, exactly. It's going to break out. It's just a matter of, like, all those indicators, you're reading them correctly. It's not a matter of if they're going to break out. They are going to break out, but how long do you want to hold the trade before it happens? So in this HIMX, this is going to break out. All the indicators point up. And if I wanted a quick trade, I would do something like this, where you see how the 30-minute, how clear it is that it's consolidated right here, and how my indicators, all I would wait, see how MACD's coming down, but you see how high it's staying above zero? That's a good sign that it's going to stay above these 50-day resistance or support levels, and that the next move is going to be to the upside. But I'm still going to wait for the confirmation. And in this case, you're going to have stochastic come up, come back down, because I can just visually see that it's not ready to cross over yet. And then by then, you're looking at maybe 2 days, it'll probably be ready for a push. Even tomorrow, it might eventually cross back over on the 30-day and get ready for this push. And if you see, this is already above 25. It just needs to start heading back up. And the momentum you want to see cross back into zero. So as long as you wait for momentum to zero and MACD to cross, you'll have all your indicators that this is moving up. And that's a shorter term trade. So it just depends. How long do you want to hold the trade for? The fact that my daily and my weekly are confirmed, I can go in to 30-minute time frames now and trade this. But the thing about a 30-minute time frame is you have to be willing to day trade it. 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute charts, and then like 30-minute is kind of at that edge where you might have to day trade it. You might have to determine, like, okay, like, it's because we know that it's consolidating on the daily and weekly. That daily and weekly, it's not breaking out yet, which means if you get a pop on the 30-day, on the 30-minute, it means it's going to come back down because it's still consolidating, if that makes sense. So you can get like a 20, 30, 40 cent pop, but know that it's not going to last. But as long as you follow your indicators, that you'll get that pop, you'll make that money, and you can get out of the trade. I think if you stay on an hourly time frame, you don't have to really worry about day trading at all. And if you look at the hourly, it hasn't even entered consolidation. You see that? So you have these big Bollingers that are bowed out, and then it's straight lining right now. It hasn't even entered into a consolidation phase. Even if it's only a short consolidation phase, like this little bit right here, you see how this little bit of consolidation, it hit the bottom Bollinger and the bottom of the 50-day, and then bam, breaks out. Even if you're waiting for that little bit of consolidation, you'll be set up for that next run. But you don't trade in the breakout. You wait for it, and then you trade. You get into it right before the breakout. And the signs for this breakout, if you're looking at the hourly, are right here. Stochastic crossover. See how the momentum's not there yet, but the MACD crossed over and the ADX was increasing. So on this first block right here, this was a breakout signal. You could have bought on that one and then rode it up to here. Boom. About a 60-cent gain. So even for short term, you want to confirm on the daily and weekly side. The point of confirming on daily and weekly is because you want to know that your trade is going in the right direction. Yeah, if you want to stay in Walmart, yeah, you have all the right confirmations, but you're not in a breakout phase. You're in a consolidation phase. So if you held Walmart long enough, yeah, it's going to break out. The reason why we're searching for breakouts is so that you don't have to keep your money tied up in the market for a long period of time. Because yeah, exactly, like maybe months. Because obviously the market as a whole is volatile. You don't know if the Dow is going to crash or anything. So you're finding the right trades. Like you are looking at the indicators completely correctly. The only thing you haven't done is that I've developed over time is just recognizing when consolidation happens and where the resistance and support levels are so that I can identify a little bit quicker what's happening. Yeah, in and out, exactly. So, and because unless you have 25,000 in your account, you're not really day trading. But you could day, in theory, you could day trade this style, but you're in and out within a couple of days or maybe a couple weeks, and that's it. And then you find another trade. But if you wanted to go long term, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I actually have a strategy for long term investments as well, but it's not something that I've gone over yet. So are you still able to trade? Like you're flagged for the 90 days? Or are you putting money, are you taking your money out of Robinhood and going to TD Ameritrade where you can have your trades available? The way I look at day trades for me, because I'm a swing trader, is I think of day trades as a safety net. I don't use them like unless I'm like, oh crap, like this just went south really quickly and I need to get out and it's like a day trade scenario. So I don't use day trades to try and trade for profit, if that makes sense. I use day trades as a safety net to get out if I made a bad call. Does that make sense? So yeah, so everything's confirmed on HIMX. So again, like if I were to go into these lower time frames, it just goes to prove exactly what I'm saying with the indicators. Look at this 15-minute chart real quick, and I know you got to go here in a minute. Um, so it just goes to show breakout, consolidation, breakout, consolidation. You get what I'm saying? So, and if you look at the indicators, it shows you that it was happening because look right here in this consolidation channel, up stochastic, an increasing momentum, crosses over zero, MACD crosses over. But this is what I was telling you. See how it enters consolidation when the ADX is still coming down, which is what's happening on the daily and weekly right now. And then look what happens. It plays out for a little bit, and then bam, it breaks out. Why? Because all your indicators say it was going to, and all you're waiting for is that ADX to come. Then it gets stuck on this resistance level, and then it consolidates again. You see that? And as it's consolidating, you see how this is coming down, this is coming down, and this is coming down? So now we're waiting for the setup again. Yeah, exactly. So that's when it's entering that consolidation phase after a breakout. Um, what I like to see is what's being set up right now. You see how the ADX is down, and then the next thing it's going to increase. You see, with the MACD crossover, the momentum crossover, and the stochastic crossover. This is the ideal situation, not with the ADX coming down, but with the ADX that's going to rise with them. How they'll all four move at the same time. That's ideal. So the next phase here, like this on a 5-minute chart, like I would buy into this on a 5-minute chart, but yeah, you would have to day trade it at that point. You know what I mean? You might get 30, 40 cents out of this breakout like you saw here and here, and then boom, you'd have to be done because the overall chart says that it's going into consolidation. So that means you just take that little profit, you get out, and then you move on. So you can do this on any scale. As long as you confirm that the overall trend is up, whether you're using daily or weekly, you can trade on any scale below it, if that makes sense. But if the daily's not confirmed, like if the daily was right here, like coming down, you see this area right here, how the daily's coming down? If I go into this chart on this day on a 30-minute time frame, and say, oh, I'm going to buy long, that doesn't make sense because like the daily's not confirming a long trade. It's a lot to look at. I know it is. But the reason why I think it's vital that you don't just follow one or two indicators and that you actually wait for a real confirmation is because there's so many variables in the stock market that you really want to confirm. So again, I can find these, like I've gotten to the point where I can find a few a week, but I don't even trade that many a week. I probably trade bi-weekly or even like a few times a month because of that. Yeah, this video will be saved to my channel, so you'll be able to rewatch it whenever. All right, man. Take care. Have a good day at work. No problem.